Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast series with your host, Charles Luttrell. Our series features leaders and business owners in your community discussing the customer experience, employee satisfaction, and performance improvement. Our series will help share strategic ideas for coaching and mentoring through mystery shopping in a post-pandemic economy. And now here's your host, Charles Luttrell. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Another
Hi there.
podcast starting here with 2023 kicking off. I'm here with Anthony and Chef Jeremiah. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
All right, so let's go get started. So the first question I ask is, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right, well, my name is Jeremiah Brooks. I'm the executive chef and co-owner of Hamilton's on Main in Newark, Delaware.
And I am Anthony Brooks, and the co-owner as well as event design coordinator.
Events design, it's awesome, and coordinator. Great. So why did you guys decide to be a business owner? The loaded question.
It's a loaded question, but I think I can make it a little bit less dramatic than it's been published in newspapers in the past. I've been in the industry consistently for about 22 years now, and I had gotten into executive management, and I went to work for a company in DC, and we lived in Frederick, and I was driving probably 3.5 hours each way every day. And it was exhausting and soul crushing. And Anthony said to me, it's like, something has to give because there's just no quality of life. His mother was living with us at the time. They went to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, where they found a turnkey restaurant space that had tiny little 18 seats and 2 little 14-seat patios in a building that was built in 1840, and kind of convinced me to leave the world of corporate restaurants and go off on our own. So we did. That was July of 2019, and then we know what happened in March of 2020. So during the COVID lockdown, the space was too small for sustainability, so we were able, with all of the subsidies that were happening for business owners at the time, we were able to move our location to a larger facility and be able to reopen in June of 2020 in a larger space. The caveat was we weren't able to get a liquor license because we were under a Masonic temple and next to a church, and it's West Virginia. I'll just leave that there. So
three strikes against you, right?
Exactly. So we ran it for a year very successfully. We had a wonderful run with it, but we just weren't able to get fine dining in Harpers Ferry to work well because who wants to have a $45 steak with coffee, tea, or soda?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so we shuttered it in June of last year with, again, great success, but we went looking June of 2021.
Correct.
Sorry, that was almost 2 years ago. We had been looking at other spaces in Frederick. We looked in Leesburg and Purcellville, like where we had been living, and there just wasn't anything available because all of the municipalities gave their COVID resources to restaurants to help sustain them with tents and heated patios and patio heaters. The city of Frederick shut down the main market street every Friday night for the entirety of the year to accommodate alfresco dining so that restaurants wouldn't suffer with the COVID restrictions.
Right.
Which was great. I mean, I was like, congratulations, but it didn't help us. So we were visiting friends in Wilmington, and I just happened to go online looking for restaurant spaces that were available. And the current space that we are in on Main Street had just been released as available for lease.
That's great.
Yeah, so then we went to work trying to get funding to open this beast of a restaurant. It's 8,000 square feet, but only 5,200 is occupiable for dining.
Okay.
And if I may, Chef. So to finish the original question about what made us get into business, I am married to a brilliant human being who is self-taught, culinary expert in my opinion, no bias, I promise. And it's really difficult when you are wired as we are, not only as a couple, but as individuals, where hospitality and service are at the forefront of everything we do. And then you pepper in the fact that we're both creatives in different areas. It is a match made in heaven, as far as I'm concerned, because we balance each other out. I set the stage for Chef, and he performs with his food and his wine, and we have a great product to offer, and it deserved an opportunity for us to go into business to present that product to the community.
Right. That's great. That's great.
Okay.
So obviously you've had experience in the corporate restaurant industry, because the next question would be, why did you choose your industry? So I kind of speaks for itself, but if you want to elaborate on that, why did you choose the industry? How long and why?
So I had been pursuing a career in musical theater, which in New York they say, "Oh, you're an actor. What restaurant?" I had managed to avoid working in restaurants for several years, and I ended up just getting into hospitality. And I tried to leave it a number of times. Don't get me wrong. I was like, "This is not my landing spot. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to have a different career path." And every time I every time I left for something, I would just find myself back in hospitality. And it just, because it's very akin to theater, because there's a lot of performance, there's a lot of socialization, there's a lot of storytelling that can happen, in the restaurant hospitality field. So I guess it was 2009 officially that I said, you know what, I think this is my home. And I just committed 100% to being in restaurants. And from 2009 to 2018, I just went gangbusters on learning everything that I could, from food to wine to beverage management and direction, cocktail craft, everything that I could just absorb, to be a master of the industry.
Right. Anthony?
So I have been in customer service my entire career. I've dabbled in many organizations. I worked in a company out of Israel. I worked under an organization that also was part of the Department of Health in DC. Service has just been part of my tenure in my career. In 1996, I worked at Longhorn Steakhouse in Largo, Florida. And after like 3 months, they offered me a management position, which I wanted. And I was with them for a couple of years. I loved everything about it. But then we moved, and I didn't stay with the company. So for me, being in the restaurant industry, it fulfills many things for me personally. Um, Mostly, it's like I said before, the hospitality, uh, giving people an experience, and also helping create memories. I mean, it is not like we're reinventing the wheel. We are just two guys who love food and wine and people. And so if we can share that passion, and you know, we were here Christmas Eve, and we just had many regulars were in, and lots of new guests as well. And it was really neat to have people asking their server if they could, get us to come to the table. And it's building that sense of extended family and community. And that for me personally, coming from a large family, it fills a void because I don't get to see my family. They're all over the country. So it it's giving me purpose, but also making an impact on the people around us. And that's what I love about being in the industry.
That's great. Yeah, coming from customer service myself, I've over 25 years now working call centers and in the insurance industry. I get it, and that's where I come in with, people. It's important to have these people skills, and no matter what industry you're in, and for you guys to come out and visit tables and really interact, that says a lot about your character.
Well, thank you. And it also, we're proud of what we're doing. And, back to what you just said, I worked for Fidelity Investments. I worked for Bank of America. I just, I get the human connection. And I think in today's world, it lacks at times. And we have this opportunity to, again, showcase Jeremiah's culinary prowess. Like, I mean, when you get to dine here, you'll be like, whoa. And I'm not just saying that as a proud husband. I'm just saying that as a person who is impressed every day by what he has put together. And to be able to, we don't hit the mark every time with every guest. We try, and when we fail, we own it, and we either chef or myself will reach out to the guest if it's not corrected in the moment, if we don't know about it until afterwards. We always invite them back in. We always take the high road. And we're not, like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel or saving lives. We're serving food. So
Yeah.
let's have fun with it. And and when we do make a mistake or fall short of someone's expectations, then because it's our reputation,
Right.
it's our baby, our brand, and it it is an experience coming into this building, from making a reservation and walking in the door, to the decor, to the service. Our team is young. They're mostly college students, and they impress us every single day. They are passionate, they are kind, they are respectful. And that's something that, why would I hide in the kitchen, or in the office, when I can be out there with, chefs celebrating our successes? And that's what we do.
Yeah, and good people are hard to find. It's great that this podcast is kind of good timing, because I just posted 2 articles this morning, about Yelp reviews, and what do you do when you get a bad review, and you pretty much nailed what the articles talk about. It's like getting involved, doing the right thing.
Well, you have to own your mistakes. I mean, if we act like everybody else's fault, I mean, let's be honest, right, Chef? There are guests that will leave a review that is askewed and not represented properly. They leave out their portion of the situation at times. And there, Jeremiah has to peel me off the ceiling because, I want to go back at these keyboard warriors. But then the flip side of it is looking inward. Like, we are really good about looking at ourselves as a team, as individuals, and using it as opportunity. What was it, Chef, when we first opened, the potatoes and the chicken, like a whole thing? How did that work out for you?
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Reinvented the dish based on the feedback.
Oh, my theory is this, because I have, autonomy when it comes to the culinary direction of the restaurant. If one person says something, I'm just going to take that as a one-off. But if 3 or more people have this dish, I'm going to go and reimagine it, because we're missing the mark, because a number of people are saying the same thing. When we first opened, it was the salmon dish. It was salmon with a puree and wilted spinach, and nobody bought the salmon. I added roasted fingerling potatoes, and we couldn't keep it in stock.
Wow.
Like, just random, the strangest little thing, like the addition of a starch to the plate, and it was 2 potatoes halved. That's all I added to the plate, and suddenly it was the most popular dish on the menu.
Wow. And that's what's good about, what I do. When you bring in the mystery shopping to it, you get that non-biased, feedback of what people really think about what they order, a specific dish, or how it came out. So you get that feedback on just what you're looking for,
And that's
awesome.
that's really important to us, is getting biased feedback, because some people come in with natural biases. If you look at the dining scene in Delaware, it's very casual dining focused, and a lot of people have misconceptions about what constitutes finer dining. They think suit, tie, little black dress, get dressed up, and a lot of people, especially in our market, don't want that. Getting that clear vision of what people are actually experiencing is very important to us.
Right. Now I look at your website. I get that. I'm like, whoa, this is upscale. That's the beautiful pictures and the way it's laid out. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna
So,
put on my suit and tie to come up here and see you guys.
right, no, and that's been one of our biggest challenges. So my background also is in design.
Okay.
I love interior decorating. we design the space ourselves, colors, textures, all of it, lighting, the whole 9 yards. And it's a representation of our home. Every room in our home is different, and this is our home. We're here more than we are at home. And so we, I personally like to inspire people visually. So having those design elements in all of the different spaces is just meant to stimulate a person. And then you bring out this beautiful food and wine and beer and cocktails and service, and it's just a package deal. So it is frustrating when we have a guest. It's funny, we went to Newark Day back in September, and we had a guest, at the time was not a guest, came up to us and said, "Oh, you're that fancy schmancy place on Main Street." And I said to her real quick, I was like, "We're neither fancy nor schmancy." And she and her husband have been coming to us now faithfully since September. They were here 4 or 5 times in the month of December.
Wow.
They reach out to me when they're coming in. They are super fans, and everybody, like, they live in DC. One of their sons lives in New York, and he's like, "This is a New York City restaurant. Like, good for you."
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's just getting, and we go back and forth about this all the time, because obviously we want to grow our business and get people in the door, just because once they're in, 9 times out of 10 they're hooked.
Yeah.
Maybe even 9.5 out of 10, right? So it's getting them in the door, and we realize that it takes time, and that it's one handshake and one person at a time to build this, and that's what we're doing. And keep heads down, and really trying to just continue to deliver a superior product that is approachable, and it's getting that stigma that we're fine dining unapproachable, that to the point where we've even put banners on the railing of our patio out front, just to saying, "Come as you are." If you're, like I said in one of the articles we were interviewed, if you're a group of ladies just finishing up a yoga class, come in for brunch. Like, come in and eat in your yoga clothes. We don't care.
That's great.
So
Chef Jeremiah, I'm looking at the website, that wonderful dish you have on the main page. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, let me look.
I put him on the spot. I knew it.
There you go.
It is salmon,
like
lemon.
Oh, salmon. It's the salmon with the pistachio foam.
Is that what that
yes,
is?
yes,
Pistachio foam? That's what I want to know about.
Is.
I want to know about that. It looks so good.
So when we were pre-opening, I was looking for an interesting expression of salmon, because I'm a staunch believer that salmon doesn't need to have any other seasoning but salt and pepper. That it stands alone as a protein, and I wanted to do something kind of interesting without crusting it. So it was actually it wasn't pistachio foam. We did a pistachio gelato.
We did, but then okay, cool.
But then as the photo was being taken, it kind of had to be modified into a foam, because he was taking pictures for like 45 minutes, and I'm like, "You do realize that is frozen?"
It's about to fall out.
It is melting. So I reimagined, and I went and made a pistachio foam for it.
And also, there's also the shrimp and grits, chef, on the picture.
Is there?
Yeah, it just, trust me, it's there.
Shrimp.
Okay. I mean, the shrimp and grits is one of my favorite dishes. We were at one of my really good friends, who was an executive chef that I worked with back in 2016 to 2018. He and she was our sous chef at the restaurant. They got married in Charleston, South Carolina, where they had moved to, and this was probably the Wednesday before COVID lockdown of 2020. We drove down to have their wedding, and we went to a restaurant called Slightly North of Broad. Also goes the acronym SNOB.
That's interesting.
It's such a thing, and it's a well-known restaurant. And we went in for just some bubbles and some lunch, and I ordered their shrimp and grits, and I was like, I have never had shrimp and grits like this in my life. and I inquired about the style because it was a tomato base. It was spicy. It wasn't like the creamy shrimp and grits that we have up north. And they said, this is a Q.A.C style. And I was like, I've never heard of that type of cuisine. So we went in search of cookbooks and history of what Q.A.C low country cuisine is. And it's actually Western African style food, indigenous to that Western Cape of Africa. But as people were brought over here back then, they brought their cultural idioms with them, and that low country cuisine of South Carolina is very much owed to the Q.A.C style. So
Wow.
I wanted to replicate it without copying a recipe. So I just came home and started working on the right balance of spice and acid, to bring a shrimp and grits to our guests, and that's where that dish came from. So it's a memory of the freedom before COVID, and also a really awesome expression of a type of cuisine that was very new to me at the time.
Right.
And
Sounds
then
yummy.
it's delicious. And then the biggest thing is our has become our burger. So we competed in July in the Delaware Burger Battle.
Nice.
And Chef won first place in the People's Choice.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, first
Thank
time
you.
out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
First time doing it?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It was
Impressive.
awesome. You want to tell them about that burger, Chef?
I mean, it's a burger.
Right. But it's not just any burger.
It's not just any burger.
It's a burger. I honestly did not even want to put the burger on the menu when we opened Hamilton's on Main, and I got a lot of pushback about not having it, so we did it. This was the first dish that we created for our old location, Hamilton's Tavern in Harper's Ferry. It is bacon jam with gorgonzola, garlic aioli, and arugula.
Wow.
Very, very savory. So the bacon jam takes almost an entire day to make. It's really savory. It's balsamic vinegar. It's why am I losing my mind? Port wine, a little bit of cayenne, and brown sugar. Very, very simple ingredients, but then you just reduce that to this really intensely bacony, savory flavor.
It's so good. So good.
Sounds amazing.
And
That will be my item to order when I visit.
Exactly. Well, and Jeremiah says it all the time. If you're going to a new restaurant and you don't know what to have, try the burger, because if they can nail the burger, then they can nail everything else.
Yeah. That's great. I'm a burger guy. I'm a pizza guy. So burgers it is.
Well, in an effort to be air quotes approachable, we've added we have prime rib on Tuesdays now. So we've added a French dip to the menu, which is phenomenal and sells like hotcakes. We've added a crab cake to the menu, but also a crab cake sandwich. And then we have a really, really good chicken sandwich as well. So we're trying to find that balance where you have something for everyone without giving up your identity.
Right. Yeah. So many restaurants, they try to, please every customer. Somebody comes and asks for something and they throw on the menus. Next thing you know, you got a diner menu. You're trying to 500 items.
Well, the one thing we both agree on is that no matter how simple our menu is or is not, the execution, the quality, that's always going to be knocked out of the park. So,
Right.
So we're not going to go to a wing house. Like, we're not going to turn into a wing house, but if we did, we would be excelling at that as well.
Right.
Without sounding, conceited.
That's great. You gotta give credit where credit's due, right? If you're doing it right, you're doing it right.
The food is phenomenal. I'm very proud.
So the good thing about this is we're cruising through this interview and we're talking all this good food and everything. It's great. So now we're going to shift down to the next question. What are some of the challenges that you guys face?
Wait, you go first, Chef. I have my list.
Some of the challenges that we face. There a lot of restaurants, especially since COVID, have been struggling with staffing. And universally, it's always been kind of a challenge. This is not really a challenge for us, but I think industry-wide, that being is consistently a challenge. We are very blessed to have a full staff at all times. But getting people to understand great food has presented a unique challenge, because when you think of what we are surrounded with in our dining scene where we are, it's a lot of very large portions, and we focus on like proper portioning, and we've gotten a lot of misunderstanding of what proper portioning should look like for a balanced meal. That was one big challenge that we faced. Being in a college town is also a very unique challenge for our style of restaurant, because of 40% of the restaurants on Main Street are geared toward college kids and their appropriate budgets. So there's Irish pubs and dollar shots and plenty of fast casual restaurants that we are oddly enough directly competing with, even though they are not in our technical, like what we would consider to be direct competition, but we're competing for against rather the college town mentality,
Right.
which is its. But then we also have the locals who are deeply passionate and incredibly supportive, but they will not come downtown when class is in session.
Wow.
So what we
Like-
end up happening is, so during school session, the parents are in town for visiting their children. So we see that influx. And now finally, almost a year into this, because February will be our 1 year anniversary, the locals who now know about us and are coming out are out in full force during the time when the students are here. They still, don't get us wrong, they still come out during the school year, just not as much. We have, of course, the tried and trues that'll come whenever. They don't care about the school atmosphere.
Nothing stops them, right? They're
Correct.
they're the regs.
Right.
That's great.
And then to piggyback on what Chef was saying, when you ask about the challenges, it really is just, like I said before, one handshake, one person at a time, one event. We are engaged in, like, there's a bridal exhibit coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
On things, whatever exposure we could get, any charitable events that we could go to and be part of, to get our name out there, and that has helped immensely. It definitely has. But it is just finding the patience to wait, I guess, for lack of a better term, because we don't have pockets deep enough to spend tens of thousands of dollars on radio advertising or billboards. And I just, we don't have that corporate funding, if you will.
Right.
So it is just dialing into hitting every step of service and quality all the time. And to piggyback also on what Chef said, we are very, very fortunate to have the team of professionals that we have. Chef's right hand is Kevin Jones, and he might as well be his name on the building. You would not know that he did not own this restaurant. He's so engaged and committed, and we're very fortunate. Same with our front of house leadership. We've just, and I'm not, again, trying to sound conceited, but like attracts like, and we've been very fortunate to surround ourselves with people that are also passionate about the industry.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last question: how has the pandemic changed your business model, pre and post? Right. the big question.
If I can go first.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So because we started only 7, 8, 9 months before the pandemic really took hold, we were still getting our footing, so to speak.
Okay.
And we were not a carry out based program in Harpers Ferry. And the community of 290 residents were, basically marooned in Harpers Ferry. They couldn't go anywhere. The mayor shut the town down, so we didn't have any outside, people coming in to support us. So they did their best to order from us to try and keep us going. And then when it just got to the point where we were literally we were hemorrhaging at that point, so we went and sat in our house in Harper's Ferry and just kind of stared at each other for 4 weeks until we got the wherewithal to get this other space up and running. And anyhow, so we did modify to have food product that was able to represent well in transport, because when you're plating things with microgreens and tweezers, it's not going to look good if Grubhub tosses it around in the back of their car. And no offense to those folks who do that service, because we appreciate them.
Right.
So coming to this location, we still tried to not have to rely on carryout. We recently have evolved into having some of the platforms here, and being able to have a program. There are some things on our menu that we don't do for carryout just because of the presentation. But other than that, I mean, really, we have stayed true to our form. If I'm correct, Chef, would you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly. During the thick of the pandemic, like we tried to undulate and adapt to what was going on outside of our walls, making things more carry out friendly, a little more family style. But post, I feel like things now are just starting to return to some sense of normalcy, even though the threat is still out there. It feels as though people are just starting to come out and really start resuming what was as close to pre-pandemic normality as we, I think, will be able to achieve.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I read a lot of articles that they talk about, how restaurants are not seeing the traffic, but yet when I go and visit restaurants, the traffic is fine, So I don't know, there's a disconnect between what they're trying to portray in the restaurant industry, but
Personally, and I want this to sound support the entire industry. When we were a year ago getting ready to open our doors, a conversation that we have with our business partner is, how do we feel an upper scale restaurant is going to fare in the middle of this COVID madness? And we kind of started thinking about how many mid-range casual dining corporate restaurants suffered dramatically during COVID, because when people were locked down in their homes for 90 days, 6 months, depending on what part of the country, they had no choice but to learn how to cook for themselves.
right.
And I think
Or order DoorDash.
or order DoorDash, right? But even
Yeah.
that was risky. But even people were terrified of doing that in the really darkest moments of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so these people, I looked at many of my friends that I've known for years, and they just locked themselves in their houses and learned how to cook, learned how to bake bread, learned how to actually make a good sauce. And when they were finally able to go back out and start dining out again, I think it changed people's perspective of what quality is.
Right.
Because when these people had to do all of this prep work themselves, they were like, dear Lord, this is complicated. And I think it elevated most people's palates, that the casual restaurants that your neighborhood grills and such aren't seeing the boon that they were seeing in 2019, because people have higher expectations now.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? How it's kind of shifted to where it's all about me, and people are very short fused, with it.
That is definitely a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have, and because they've learned how to do it, now they think everybody is James Beard.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
that is a blessing and a curse at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody thinks they're a master chef because, well, I've cooked for myself at home. Like, right, but you haven't cooked for 700 people a day.
I know what I'm fixing. This should look just like this. No, sir, it does not. That is so true. Oh, man. Well, thank you guys for coming on and telling your story. So how do our listeners reach out to you?
Well, they can reserve their experience on resi.com, or they can contact us through our website, hamiltonsonmain.com. And there's an event inquiry. We have a great event space upstairs. We've had several weddings, rehearsal dinners this past year, where They started out upstairs with a dinner for the bridal party, and then came downstairs and had a cocktail party for all the guests. That was a lot of fun.
Great.
So that's on our website, and then of course our phone number is. Do you want me to say the phone number? It's 302-358-8533. They can call the restaurant anytime, and if we do not answer, they can leave a message. We get an instant email notification, and we can contact them directly. So.
As the fire truck goes by.
Oh boy.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, no, we did not actually. And I highly recommend if anybody wants to follow us on social media, because we do wine dinners regularly as well as events throughout the year. All of that is on our website as well as updated on our social media on a regular basis. So
Right. And you have Instagram and Facebook, right?
we
Both of
do.
those?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Great. All right. Anything else,
I'm good. Chef, you're good?
Jeff?
Feeling good.
Yes. I really appreciate you guys coming on and telling your story.
And we appreciate you and what you're doing for the community. And it means a lot to us to have this time with you. So Chuck,
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I will make a visit soon. You're not too far away. You're about 35 minutes from me.
It's worth the drive, I promise.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah. The way it sounds and looks, I'm there. And I want to try your burger, Chef.
Awesome.
And I'm a big salmon fan, so I gotta do the salmon and the burger. So
Good stuff.
guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
All right, thank you, sir.
You too. Thank you so much, guys.
I know.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Today, we took you beyond the restaurant table and into the kitchen with leaders and business owners in your community. For more information, visit us at QACteam.com or Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for listening.